Hi, this is Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I got 3 girls, and they really love each other, but at times I am really confused by their communication. They trash talk each other like I have never heard trash talking before. I mean, they see things like, if I was as ugly as you, I wouldn't want to leave the house right now either. So when I hear stuff like this, I'm like, girls, please stop. This isn't good communication. Stop trash talking each other. And they just laugh and they just keep going on about their business. And it is so confusing. They're all huggy and cooperating and loving and hanging out with each other most of the time. And they're very rarely actually angry at each other and arguing. But man, there's this trash talking that's just, well, it's so mean and demoralizing. It just doesn't match the relationships. What about you? Do you have kids or siblings or friends where this kind of trash talking happens all the time? People really like each other, but the words they're using communicate something totally opposite. If you've got a good example of that, please pause the video and share with whoever you're watching with. This video is based on my interpretation of James chapter 1, verse 19 to 21, and also verse 26. In this text, we learn something about how communication impacts the people around us and what it does to our own potential for growth. James chapter 1, verse 19 to 21 and 26. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives, and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. Verse 26, if you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself, and your religion is worthless. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. Here's what I think this text is all about, the direction I'm going with this video. How angry and triggered communication versus good listening impacts relationships and personal growth. That's right. Angry and triggered communication affects the relationships around you, and it also impacts your personal growth. However, good listening does the same thing. It impacts the relationships around you, and it also impacts your own potential for personal growth. In our culture, I am pretty sure we all know what being triggered looks like. If you don't, just log on to any social media platform and look for the many people who are communicating something in a very angry way. Here's 2 issues here. First, communicating while we're triggered or angry actually does something to ourselves. When we communicate as angry or triggered people, that shapes us as individuals. I mean, it does something to the relationships around us too, but its greatest impact is actually on ourselves and our potential for personal, social, professional, and spiritual growth. However, when we communicate from a place of being a strong listener, that also shapes who we are, the kind of relationships we have around us, and our own capacity for all of that growth as well. So let's take a look at what this passage has to say about both communication and listening. Let's start with this verse. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. I have this funny thing happen to me from time to time when I'm out and about in public places talking to people. People swear around me all the time. But when they find out I'm a pastor, for some reason they start apologizing for everything they just said to me, and they try to clean up their language, and they continue to apologize every single time they slip up. The truth is that I just don't care. You can speak in your usual language with me. I just don't care what I'm receiving, as long as you're having a conversation with me that's either therapeutic or that's moving you closer to Jesus. Either one, it's okay. Speak as you would like. But that's not actually the total story, because I do actually care. Maybe not for reasons why people might think, and what they would come up with. Like, ooh, it's a pastor, he cares. I don't know, it's some religious thing that people aren't allowed to swear. They get negative brownie points or coal in their stocking. I don't know. Personally, I feel that swearing diminishes the level of communication and expresses that you don't value your audience and you don't expect anything good to come from the conversation. Swearing can create social distance and limits your personal and professional growth. I think it's a really bad idea for you to have swearing as part of your normal communication. Am I going to judge you for it? No. Am I going to stop talking to you if you swear to me and get all up and like angry and stuff? No. I just think it's a really bad idea because it's self-limiting. Do I have a problem with it? No. However, I'm also not about to invite into my closest circle of wise friends someone that can't speak coherently and respectfully. I mean, why would I? So, why this illustration to start with? Because James is sharing with us a big lesson in communication. The way you communicate with others not only matters to your personal growth and relationships that you have, but it also matters to God. Your communication can absolutely limit your spiritual growth. I mean, how many F-bombs would you expect to hear within a group of people who are trying to get their lives on track with Jesus and become respectful in their communities and loving people and loving God? It's probably not going to happen a whole lot. Here's what the text is telling us about how we communicate. It's not saying anything about swearing. It's saying something about anger. If you allow yourself to get carried away in your conversation because you somehow get triggered, it doesn't increase your closeness with God. Your words, your style of communication, according to this text, does two things for you. It can communicate to others that you are on an awesome journey moving closer to Jesus, and it can be a tool that you use to move closer to God, or your words, your style of communication can do the opposite two things. It can in some way indicate to your listeners that you are not interested in personal or spiritual growth, and your words can be working against you because they're not honoring God and indicating you want to follow Jesus. Your words matter. Your vocabulary matters. Your style of speaking to others matters. Am I judging you for how you speak to me? Well, no, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. So we're given the instruction to be great listeners. And when we listen, we're intentionally pushing away our triggers and allowing others to speak. When we communicate out of anger, we're actually pushing others away. But when we're intentionally listening, we're pushing our triggers away. When we're listening, we're intentionally pushing away our anger reactions because it's an emotion that pushes God and others away. We're encouraged to train ourselves to be listeners and then to speak respectfully in a way that demonstrates the priority we have in following Jesus in the way we use our communication. Debase yourself with constant triggers and anger communication. You'll be surrounded by others who are just as interested in lowering the bar and requiring very little from themselves as they look for the easiest path of existence. Step up your communication by working extra hard to listen. Reject your triggers. Don't fall into the choice of angry communication. Instead, choose to speak respectfully and use your words in a way that reveals you as a Jesus follower. And then you'll be set on a trajectory of being surrounded by people who are attempting to take their life to the next level and be better connected with Jesus. The text is more saying it. It says, if you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself, and your religion is worthless. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God, the Father, means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. So very simply put, our faith is in Jesus. As Jesus followers, our hope is in the resurrection. One day, Jesus is coming back, and all of us who are followers of him will be included in a relationship with God forever. And I'm truly looking forward to that. But that's a lot of spiritual fluff if our commitment to follow Jesus means nothing to us right here and right now. Namely, it's our communication that offers us a confirmation that we're on track with God. If we're shooting our mouth off and easily triggered and often find ourselves communicating with some form of anger, then something is wrong. Communication that can inform you that you're on track is communication that's soft with people who are less powerful than you, less intelligent than you, weaker than you, people in distress, people who are in need. Soft communication informs you that there's something happening in your heart that's growing your love for God and growing your love for others, and you are on the right track. Now, I've heard this very damaging phrase floating around the church world. It goes, share the gospel, and if necessary, use words. That is so twisted. That is a lie. It's dishonoring to yourself and the people around you. It's dishonoring to God. Our communication is essential to revealing our heart for others and our heart for God. With bad communication or lack of communication, we can create distance from others and God. And we're leaving out the most precious thing that people need, which is namely Jesus. If you're interested in growing as a Jesus follower, please be interested in growing as a communicator. Your lack of communication or bad communication is hindering and diminishing your connection with Jesus and others. As James has said, let's not fool ourselves. So enough with the exposition. What about the application? For me, part of this is easy. I'm learning how to be a better listener, and I'm continuing to check my triggers and my angry communication. That part is pretty easy for me. I don't fly off the handle in my communication, hardly ever. For me, however, part of this is pretty hard because the older I get, the less tolerant I become of the facade of pretty words floating around in our culture that are leading nowhere good. And I have less tolerance for socializing with people that I just judge as foolish. I need to remember that compassion is something I need to keep as part of my communication. And I need to let humility inform how I speak to others. What about you? You got to have an application too. As you look at your own communication, what do you see? Are your words expressing that you value the people you're speaking with? Are your words expressing to God that you value Him? Are you speaking from a place of anger much? Are you too quick to say something and find that you need to backtrack because you didn't hear all the stuff you needed to hear before you started engaging with someone in conversation by sharing your opinions? I don't know. You tell me. Looking forward to hear what you have to say and what you've come up with this coming week. That's it from me to you for now. Would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Would you please also ask for the link? We're meeting at 10:30 and also at 6 o'clock this coming Sunday for community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.